Hi, my name is Bruce Crawford. What I'll be presenting to you today is the future of news consumption. It's called Procon News, and it is the news platform that tells it both ways. News today has become so biased and so partisan. Pains that customers who consume news feel is that they see the news as very biased. It's hard to find the whole story on any one event, just read a single article. If you want to find out all the facts of a story, you have to do a lot of research, and that takes time. Procon News will allow consumers to see both sides of any particular news story or world event or just interesting issue, all on one screen by aggregating headlines. This will let customers, the gains are customers will be able to see both sides of the story themselves very quickly. They can read more, and they have all those resources available to them in one place, or they can just scan headlines, and this format will provide a really easy way for them to do that and get a complete picture. What makes Procon News unique is the proprietary T-chart layout with which we display headlines. This is the first attempt at a minimum viable product. You can see on the left a potential home page with major stories shown, and on the right a topic page. This particular topic is the Trump Tracker. That is just a live stream of different hot topics in the Trump administration. Stories that are more pro-Trump on particular topics are on the left, and on the right, on the con side of the chart, are the corresponding negative takes on that same story. And this is the second attempt at the minimum viable product. I received some feedback that some things could be cleaned up design-wise, and also I received feedback that people wanted to read about things that weren't politics. I had a lot of people respond negatively to the surveys I sent out and things that I showed them just because it mentioned Donald Trump. And although the negative media surrounding politics is what inspired the idea, people wanted to have the same layout, the same service for a variety of topics. So you can see here on the right a global climate change topic, and of course there's a bunch of information on both sides of that. We also have a preview here of a phone app. The topic displayed is the shape of the Earth, the flat Earth society versus the rest of the scientific world. And this is a possible look at how it could look on a phone screen, an app, or a widget. As you can imagine, the market for such a product has the potential to be really huge. I took a look at the market size using two methods, a top-down method and a bottom-up method. So in the top-down approach, I realized there were 1 billion news consumers every month, 85% of which use their phones for news. So conservatively saying I can reach half of them, I arrived at a market size of about 425 million. I also looked bottom up, seeing that there are 2.1 billion smartphone users in the world right now, and of course India and China are just getting exposure. And 70% of the smartphone users that I interviewed use their phone for news. That I can conservatively say, okay, half of that figure will use our product, and that puts us at 735 million viewers per month. And just to give you an idea, CNN is right under 600 million viewers a month on average. So I think that somewhere in this ballpark is pretty accurate for how big this market could be. Obviously, we won't be there at first, but there's definitely enough market there for this to be a massive success. Okay, so we know that there's a huge potential market for this product. So the next question is, who is in this market? Who will be using this product? So I've broken it down into 3 most likely market segments, and I'll let you know which was most popular in my interviews afterwards. So the first segment is what I'm calling the fed up. These are middle-aged conservatives who've given up on the media. They're American, they used to follow politics. They don't really do so anymore because they're so upset with the way the news is and how biased it is, and one way or the other, and how hard it is to read. They're middle-aged, 45 to 65 years old. They're in all professions, but they're most likely blue-collar. This is an empathy map for that segment. As you can see, the things they think and feel are very negative. They think there's fake news. There's a lot of being upset and frustrated. They don't feel that they can trust any news sources. What they're going to see with this product is a really simple layout, and they're going to see that they're getting the full picture right in front of them. That Procon News, everybody says they're not biased, but our layout is going to prove that to them. They're going to see right away both sides. They're going to hear a lot of positive things around them as they're using this site. There's going to be interest from their friends and family. This group loves to share their political opinions with others, and so they'll get positive feedback on their source, which is proconnews.com. And because they like to talk about the news and share their opinions, they're going to share their love of Procon News. They have, we've already covered this, but they have the pains of not being able to trust the news. They don't want to take the time to research. They don't feel that they can trust anything that's coming at them. And they're going to gain the ability to get back into the news again. They're not going to have to shun the whole idea because of the frustration that they've gotten from trying to view the news in the past. The next customer segment is millennials. And I'm saying millennials, but we will include Gen Y in there as well. So 18 to 30-year-olds. Western and Middle Eastern countries, so those with tech access, students and young professionals just by nature of their age. So this segment is feeling and thinking similar things about the news. They perceive inequity in the news. They perceive that things are so biased and it's complicated, and they can see that there's a problem with the system. And so their response is to kind of stay out of it because politics isn't that interesting anyway, and it's easier for millennials to just not think about those things. As they get into this product, into this site, into Procon News, they're going to have a new experience with the news. They're going to like that they can see both sides and feel like they're getting the whole picture, just like all the other customer segments. They're going to really start to like the way that they're perceiving their peer group as they're really informed about the news. They're going to hear their friends say, "Wow, that's a cool site. How do you get all your information? He's always so well informed." So the pains that this product is solving for millennials is that it's hard to stay informed, and they don't care all that much anyway. Don't really understand why it matters. They also are mistrusting, so they will like that they don't have to count on one source for their news. They gain the ability to stay involved and expend minimal effort. We millennials are all about minimal effort. They'll like that they get to sound intelligent in political conversations as well, and they'll be able to question more things. Millennials also like to question things. This third segment is teachers and professors. What we're going at here is just generally educated people, middle-aged educated people. They're mostly liberal, they're American, they're middle-aged, 45 to 60. We're getting really specific in saying they work in educational field, and they stay informed using traditional news outlets. So there's some similar feelings here in their empathy map. They understand that their sources aren't always totally valid in the news that they consume. But unlike the other two customer segments, these people still stay informed. They haven't given up just because they feel like they don't care enough, or they're woefully at the mercy of biased news outlets. They stay informed and they put in the work to read both sides and get the whole picture on these stories. They are really going to like, similar to millennials, they're going to like the way that this service gives them insight into more news stories. They're going to seem really well informed, and they're going to love the edge that that gives them with their colleagues and their peers. They'll enjoy not spending as much time getting the full story as well. So the pains that they're having right now is they're not getting they're getting the full picture, but it takes a long time, and they always feel the disadvantage that their colleagues might know more than ever, have more enlightened, more sage opinions. They're going to gain the ability to do the research quickly, see both sides quickly. That's going to save them time during their busy schedules, and they're going to gain acclaim among their peers. They're going to be, Jerry, who has great political opinions and is so well informed and sees all sides of the story. So you may have guessed it, but millennials are the segment that I've identified as being the most likely to adopt this service early. And the main reason for that is because millennials get their news from their mobile devices. They're always on their phones, and that's where they get their news. So we're going to get them by advertising on social media, Twitter, Facebook. We're going to advertise on select podcasts, on Spotify, and then we're going to have a killer app that is well reviewed in the App Store or any App Store, and that's going to draw them to get the product. We're going to keep them by having a killer app, an app that works really well, a smooth website, interesting topics. Everything just has to work really well because millennials won't tolerate technology that's not up to par. That's an absolute must. And we'll grow these customers by starting to monetize them. We'll offer to stop bugging them with so many ads on the website if they subscribe. We'll offer to give them extra functionality. Like we'll let them follow a topic. If they pay for a monthly subscription, they can follow a topic, and whenever there's new developments on that topic they've been reading about, they will get an alert. And then the viral loop comes in. If we have an app that is interesting, is providing a service, they will talk. Millennials are social. They share things on social media. We just have to have interesting content and an app that works really well, and that viral loop will take care of itself in this segment. The distribution for Procon News is pretty straightforward. It's an online distribution channel, and so there's 3 different ways that we're going to reach our customers. First is through a desktop website, as you saw on most of my MVP mockups. A smartphone app and widget. A widget is, for instance, if you have an iPhone, the place where you swipe left from your home screen. There are news apps that already pop up there. On most smartphones, on the lock screen, you can have news widgets. Also, social media partnerships. A Twitter partnership where you can follow Procon News and have some of our site's functionality built into Twitter, so it's a little bit more of a premium service than just following a normal news service and then tweeting. Those are going to be the 3 main distribution channels that we reach our customers through. 2 key partners that we've identified are web and app developers and major news networks. So we'll need to establish a strategic alliance with the developer as soon as possible. We need to get a better minimum viable product up and going. We need something that consumers can test and use, and we need everything to be really sharp on the technical end. Major news networks are going to engage in a little co-opetition with us, hopefully. So we will really feed off them. We will need to have relationships so that we can use their content, and we will also be going to them for advertising needs. We will advertise with them because that's where news consumers are going. That's who could possibly use our site, and we hope that they will also advertise with us, so that even though we're competing, we will be advertising with each other and both growing customers together. That's the ideal. Procon News will need to have key resources in each of the 4 following categories. As far as physical resources go, we'll need computers. We'll need a place to meet and to work. Human capital will be very important. We'll need to get, like I mentioned in the previous slides, we'll need to get a developer on board very quickly. We'll need to get someone to sort the news, hire interns or something to be sorting headlines, kind of doing that grunt work until we can develop an AI application that can sort news by partisanship or whatever. Our financial resources will be important as well. This is an idea that won't need a ton of upfront money to get off the ground. You need to hire and pay a developer and begin paying someone to sort, and we'll need to pay people for sales. But other than that, not a whole lot of financial needs. Intellectual property will be very important for Procon News due to the proprietary nature of the T-chart layout. That's something that's going to be unique in the news world, and so we want to make sure we get that idea trademarked and locked up so that it can't be taken. We've touched on this a little bit already, but the first thing that we need to do at Procon News is first get an app and website up and going, get something functioning that we can give to consumers to further test our value proposition hypothesis. And the next thing that we need to do is market to key customer segments. We need to spread the word about this site so that we can get feedback, so that we can see what people like and see what they respond to. Once we can do these two things, we trust that our user base will expand. Once we get enough users, then we can attract advertising, and that will create profitable growth. And we hope for a virtuous cycle there as we can grow profitably and use those resources to gain more customers and improve services and see a virtuous cycle there. But the first thing that we have to do are get an app and website up and going, and then market. This slide lays out cost assumptions for the first year of getting Procon News off the ground. There's a lot on the slide, so we'll just go through the high-level things. The first thing you'll notice is that most of the costs for Procon News are fixed. That gives us a high degree of operating leverage, which means that our fixed costs will mostly stay as volume increases. As we get more users, the only thing we're going to pay more on is PayPal commissions. All the rest of these costs will stay the same. So a high degree of volume is going to be very good for this business. All of these cost assumptions were researched as much as possible and then liberally estimated where it was harder to research. I learned during this exercise that my biggest costs early on would be sales. I had anticipated it being R&D, but sales and wages for the developer and for people to sort are actually going to be the biggest costs in this first year. This income statement model, again, is meant to show the high degree of operating leverage, the low variable costs, the high fixed costs. This is very good for a company that anticipates having lots of users, lots of viewers. We can also see here break-even analysis. We will break even before taxes, depreciation, amortization, and interest expense if we have $34,630 in revenue. Our metrics that are really going to matter for us early on are pretty simple. R&D costs is pretty straightforward. We'll need to pay a developer and pay for whatever equipment and resources he or she needs to help us get our product up and going. Page views. This is an internet business, so page views are very important. That's pretty straightforward. The number of people who view our page. CTR, or click-through ratio, is the number of people who click on an ad on your page. This is the number that people really care about. We estimate that we will achieve about 2% for our click-through ratio. This means that about 2 of every 100 visitors to our site will click on an ad. Cost per click is how much advertisers will pay us for each click. So this kind of puts page views and CTR, click-through ratio, into perspective. The cost per click will fluctuate based on these two numbers. What you want is a lot of page views and a really high click-through ratio. If you have those things, that's the ad space the advertisers are going to want to pay more for. There's a wide range for cost per click, from 25 cents a click to $10, and the cost is always going down as there are more good places online to advertise. It's becoming more competitive. We conservatively estimated for our model of previous slides, the advertisers would pay us about 40 cents per click. And the final metric that matters is sales cost. So we will need to advertise. We need to go on sales meetings with news networks and other advertisers. We'll need to advertise on social media and on podcasts and the radio, etc. We estimate that we'll spend about $15,000 in our first year just on advertising alone. Interviewing people and sharing my idea with them was extremely valuable in the development of this business plan. A few of the most influential comments that I received are quoted here. The first one was that politics should not be the sole focus of this website. A lot of people will just turn away the whole idea the second they see something about the president or politics in general. And so that caused me to expand out into other possible topics in my MVP. The second comment totally illuminated a possible subscription premium. Someone was interested in being able to follow a topic so that they can stay up on that topic and get alerts when there's new stories on either side. And the third comment was just a great insight on my first key activity. I really need to get a better minimum viable product, get something that customers can use and test and start to understand and see the value. So again, these comments, and they really shape my business model canvas, which you'll see in the next couple of slides. Ask about my business model and the environment that I'll be going into. The first is about market forces. Where's the market heading? This is positive for Procon News. Media is shifting more and more to personal devices and online. Industry forces, what stakeholders might influence your business model? For Procon News, at least early on, the main stakeholders influencing us are going to be our customers. Those are who we're going to listen to. So mostly that's millennials at the beginning. And we will look for a lot of feedback on our app and our service in general from them. Key trends. What are the key trends in the industry? Unfortunately for the world and for America, things are getting more and more divisive in the media. The tendency of partisan news networks to throw mud at each other and neglect real journalism is growing. That's only going to continue and only going to get worse no matter which side's in control. And so that is also a positive thing for Procon News. The need is not going away, it's only growing. And what macro trends are going on that can help or hurt your business? This really hits on the two things I've covered already. Things are getting more divisive. Media is getting more biased, and so that creates a good environment for Procon News. And also, the number of news consumers in the world is growing. Smartphone usage is growing. Millennials, my key customer segment, is coming of age, growing up, going to work, and hopefully feeling the need to be more informed. So I can't point to any negatives in the business environment for Procon News at this time. So I'll tear through this SWOT analysis pretty quickly. Strengths, It's a technology company in a growing industry. Millennials are coming of age. News is getting more and more partisan. The layout is so unique and will be so helpful to consumers. Weaknesses: the new technology will need to be invented to sort news by position, and that is possible. It is being done, but it will need to come a long way to be perfectly useful and cut down on the workforce required at Procon.com. Another weakness: there's a website called Procon.org that already exists. It's very similar. They do not aggregate headlines. They don't do current events. It's more of an educational website. So it's very good, but it just pushes Procon more towards the news side of things and current events where Procon.org isn't so strong. Another weakness: no reputation right now. It's a new app. Opportunities: there's no news aggregator like this that exists. There's no unbiased news sources that exist. They're universally trusted. Threats are that major news outlets could steal the concept, copyright, the proprietary T-chart design. People might shun the website. Another threat: people might shun the website just because it has news-related content. It's always a possibility. So these last two slides are a before and after of my business model canvas throughout this process. The main thing you'll notice is that there's been a lot of development. The canvas has really filled up. A lot of things are similar, but they just get more specific and more defined. And there are some entirely new things that came about through the process of this class and my interview processes. Here's the second one. This is current. It's much more full. There's a lot more on here. Some notable things that are new is that I've identified a customer segment. I know who my early evangelists are, and I've identified millennials and Gen Y as that primary customer segment. I've also understood in my key activities that I really need to put an emphasis on getting a minimum viable product up, and not just a mock-up like I already have. I need a working product. Another thing that I've discovered is that intellectual property will be really important. We need to differentiate this site in any way that we can. And so patenting that or copywriting that T-chart design will be extremely important. And the most important part of the canvas is the value proposition. And I really feel that it's gotten deeper through this process. Really, I'm understanding the things that customers will gain from this website. They'll save time wading through. They won't have to wade through biased media. They'll stay more informed, and they'll give advertisers. It will give advertisers access to their customers. We'll have a great relationship with other news outlets. And that concludes my presentation today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what Procon News can offer the world and offer you as an investor. As you can see, we've identified there is a need for this product. There is interest in this product. And we have also identified exactly the next things that we need to do to get this off the ground. I know that with capital and the resources that you can add, that we can build a great business, and we can do it in a hurry. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you.